It's come and gone, but the annual PAX East video game convention once more provided 3 days of gaming bliss. Packed with wall-to-wall panels, amazing concerts, the massive expo floor, and free swag, the show is definitely the place to be for all things gaming in early spring. Especially when the convention sells out its entire stock of passes well before it actually takes place. We discuss our experiences at this year's PAX and what we look forward to for next year, right here on Downloadable Content. Hello everyone, welcome to Downloadable Content. I'm Brian, and with me we have Wyatt.
Hello, hello.
We have Grendel.
Hello.
And we have our newcomer, Alton.
How's it going?
So yes, we are recapping our experiences at PAX East 2013. We're in Boston, Massachusetts, at the Boston Exposition and Convention Center, where it was 3 days of craziness, but a lot of fun. So much fun. And finally, I could get to make my return to PAX after a 2-year absence, because last year was on Easter Sunday, and it was also during Anime Boston, and I thought the subway was crowded this weekend. I would not have been prepared to brave the subway if it was PAX and Anime Boston going on at the same time.
With a bunch of different cosplayers going around.
That would be a bit much.
Well, we saw plenty of cosplay at PAX. I mean, there was a lot of good cosplay and a lot of bad cosplay. But such is to be expected. So, we're all here. Let's just dive right into day one. And, just for all of you listeners out there, a bunch of us went. My group consisted of myself, Reed, Grendel, my brother-in-law Ryan, and my wife April. Wyatt, you had some issues all the way down to the last second.
Right, yeah. The group that we went with last year that started, I think you have a PAX East trip on file from 2011, and that was me taking a Prius filled with electronic music and 4 other people and crowding into one room. That was a lot of fun. This year, you took your own car. Yeah, fit them all in Prius. And that was a lot of fun. I had a great time doing that. But I think, Brian, you got a little bit tired out from not getting sleep, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, such is the case with somebody with an autoimmune disease. You need sleep.
So that's how that one worked out. So this time, we ended up getting a lot of people that had to sub in and out because it was during spring break. So some people couldn't make it, some people could. I ended up helping get some people from SUNY New Paltz to go and get their own cars. So eventually, there was actually multiple cars that showed up. I ended up seeing at least 10, 15 different people I knew at the convention. Some people I didn't even see there. I knew they were there, and I looked for them. I couldn't find them. There's 70,000 people. But my car ended up being me, Alton, and Jack. And we got there really quickly right after work, and we got there just in time for the concert.
You got there before I did. How did... Yes.
On the power of dubstep.
Oh, my God, his Prius became a giant vibrator. But moving into day one, which is really night one, because we got there in the evening, and really all I wanted to see out of Friday were the concerts. So it had 3 huge performing groups. We had VGO, the Video Game Orchestra, who I last saw a year ago in Boston when they did their Final Fantasy Distant Worlds. Amazing concert, because I actually got to see the full 80 or 90-piece orchestra. But because it's PAX, it's a much smaller stage. They only had their small skeletal group, which was much more rock-based than orchestral-based, along with the video game choir from the Berklee College of Music, which was nice to see when I could hear them. The sound guy was having issues all night with all 3 groups, VGO, Those Who Fight, and the Proto-Men. But the VGO, I knew we were in for a good set because they started off with a piece I hadn't heard them do, which was the opera of Maria and Draco from Final Fantasy VI. Which, when you hear it using live instruments, is so much better than the Super Nintendo original using MIDI, in which, the vocals sound like... And
beeps.
And beeps, yes. However, I was fully expecting Ultros to drop in during that particular piece, but it didn't happen. Alton and I got really excited when they went into Chrono Trigger, their second piece.
Yeah, it was like playing the game
felt
all
when
over
I
again.
got
I
in.
actually got a little bit emotional.
It's like...
I love that
I'm
entire
very
song.
emotional
That when
guy.
they were doing Chrono
I am a
Trigger.
very emotional guy.
Well, music does that. And I'm just so glad that video game music is starting to be actually taken seriously in this country, whereas in Japan it's been a thing forever. So, after Chrono Trigger, they went
We're
into
just
the
a little behind.
Yeah, they went into The End Begins from God of War, and then we got our first view of the vocalist Ingrid when she performed the song Distant Worlds from Final Fantasy XI, who pulled that off very well, I thought.
Yeah, she has a very good voice, very mid-ranged, awesome voice.
Very good. Then we went into the silver-haired dude, which I called the bad guy because he has silver hair, and apparently anybody with silver hair in the
Yeah,
late
this
Final
is
Fantasy
illegal.
games. Yeah. Organization 13. For the Mega Man 2 piano medley, which sounded beautiful. Mega Man 2 piano medley, and then we had two songs from Metal Gear Solid 3. We had Way to Fall and Snake Eater. Because it's Metal Gear, you have to obviously make the obvious Metal Gear!
We're refraining from that because if we start those memes, it'll go on forever. And for those of you that don't know Metal Gear music, for some of it, they definitely try their best impersonation to be Bond music. So
Yeah.
if you like Bond, you definitely felt like suddenly you were, watching a spy movie for a little while. And that was
Especially
great.
with that game, yeah.
Especially the third game, where it's like basically a Bond pastiche. I'm surprised Ian Fleming didn't write Metal Gear Solid 3, but then we went into one of probably their craziest piece, the F-Zero suite.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that one
Right.
was insane.
We can talk all day about how great VGO is, because if anyone has heard of them, they'll say that they have a great standard. They're one of the first groups that started doing video game music as well as that at like the orchestra level and the rock level and all of that. And one thing that I think I said once before is that Final Fantasy music is one of the first things people think of when they think of video game music, and it's really great when people try to do other parts of that you wouldn't expect. And F-Zero is that old, an old style racing game back from Super Nintendo days, where if you blink, you're dead, pretty much. It's very fast paced, and when the person who had been doing the backup like winds instruments pulled out an electric clarinet and started doing the crazy riffs on an electric clarinet, I was a very happy man by that point.
I was, you can make an electric instrument and everything. I mean, I'd seen Boyd Tinsley of the Dave Matthews Band, go crazy on the electric violin whenever I see Dave Matthews Band in concert.
Mhm.
And, seeing, just not only you had the electric clarinet, but then you had, 4 guitar players playing each other's guitar at the
That was
same
epic.
time at 600 beats a second.
Yeah, that was a little nuts.
Because that's, the F-Zero music has to capture the game, which is, as Wyatt said, blink and you're dead. Well,
Probably
music,
the only way they could do it.
and probably, if I ever saw the sheet music for that, there's, it's just a musical staff drowned in black ink,
You'd probably start bleeding, like your
Yeah.
eyes would just start hemorrhaging blood.
the way, how fast they were playing that particular piece, it was like, you turn away for 1 second and they've gone through 5 pages of sheet music. Just how many notes there are. But yeah, it was like, no, let me play your guitar. Oh, I'll play your guitar. So we had all these crisscrossing of hands.
Yeah, what they did really just to show off and to show their talent was that they had this great moment where they had the electric clarinetist come up, and he was just watching the three guitarists and the bassist kind of playing, and they were each doing individual solos for a while. And this went on as riffs for about, what would you say, Alton,
Maybe
like 2
5
minutes? Yeah, like,
No.
okay, like 2 to 3, maybe even 4 or 5 minutes. It just felt that long because they were going back and forth, kind of doing battles with each other. And the bassist was playing just as fast as the guitarist, and lots of craziness. But then they're like, you know what? We're not done yet. I'll let you finish, but first, and they go off into that.
A funny thing, though, is I actually spoke to, on Saturday, on day 2, I actually met up with the guy who was the head of the VGO, Shota Nakam. I'm going to butcher his name because I can't speak Japanese worth a lick. But I met up with him on Saturday, and Ryan asked him, how long did it take them to practice that? And he said about 30 minutes.
Oh, that's wild.
About 30 minutes, so
while they're doing the back to forth solos, to end all that solo, they pretty much, the clarinetist reaches over to his right and grabs the bassist's the neck of his bass, and he starts going up and down that while the bass is playing in front of it. And so the bassist can take his free hand and moves over to the right. They all start playing each other's neck of the instrument, which was just absolutely insane at the speed of F-Zero. Definitely look it up on YouTube. I'm sure there's videos of it. It's fantastic.
I'm sure there were videos up the moment the concert ended. Because we all have smartphones now. But after...
Yeah, there's a lot of videos on YouTube now.
F-Zero, after that earfuck, which, might as well be, they went into the Advent Children of One Winged Angel. Always a crowd pleaser. Always a crowd pleaser.
Although the choir couldn't really hear them, and that would have really gave weight to the entire piece.
Well, yes, because One Winged Angel is a choir-heavy piece. I mean, you can't get around that. But yeah, as I said, the sound guy was having issues. They were having a lot of sound problems because I'm watching them and I'm going, okay, I see the violinist playing, I don't hear a violin, and I see the choir, their mouths are moving, I don't hear them. So yeah, they were having balance issues all night. And after One Winged Angel, they closed their set with Still Alive from Portal.
I wasn't expecting that. It was interesting.
Nice little thing. And right after the concert ended, during the break between VGO and Those Who Fight, I had posted the set list on Facebook, and one of my friends said, well, that was a nice way for them to end, to remind the entire audience that GLaDOS is still watching them. Because, GLaDOS is and I did not know until that evening that the song was written by Jonathan Colton.
Right.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
well, I haven't played the first Portal. I haven't played the first Portal yet, but now I'm going to.
Well,
he's new to Portal.
So, but it was a wonderful, wonderful set, and I would have been happy if they just played for the entire 5 hours. But we have other performing groups after VGO and their amazing set. We then proceeded to Those Who Fight, which I had never heard up until that point. Those Who Fight is they do Final Fantasy rock opera, which I'm like, okay, you're gonna do like something trans-ish. But unfortunately, I think the sound problems were the most glaring during the Those Who Fight set. They were doing pieces from their album called The Fall of Bahamut, and again,
like you said before, they were fairly new band, right?
Yes, they're quite new.
Yeah.
They're quite new, and all the visuals that were accompanying their music may have induced epilepsy in half the audience. But they didn't sound. They didn't sound bad. I said, I'm not really too impressed because, again, of all of the horrible balance issues going on, but I'm going to buy their album and see what they sound like and make sense of it all. And, their studio album, it sounds actually pretty good.
Sounded a lot better.
Yes, it does sound a lot. Well, you can understand them. How about that? But it was a Final Fantasy rock opera which incorporated themes from a bunch of different Final Fantasies. They opened with Final Fantasy VII, and I heard some weavings of 4 and 6 in there, a little 8. So it was just selections and quotes from different pieces of Uematsu's entire line. So, but that was I think the shortest of the groups, because after that break, we then move into probably easily far and away the star of the night, which was the Proto-Men, and regrettably, Reed, Grendel, and I, my group, we could only stay for the first 30 minutes, otherwise we were going to miss the subway. So
Lots of these later subways.
Yeah, and and I had found out, that we had caught the second to last train of the night. So had we stayed there any later, we would have had to shell out a lot of money for a cab. Unfortunately, but as Alton and Wyatt stayed for the entire Proto-Men concert, I will let them carry the bulk of this, so away to you.
Right. So trying to summarize, the Proto-Men is like trying to herd cats for a while, and I'm sure Alton can agree because they're very much an experience. And to say really quickly, when I first brought the first mob to Penny Arcade in 2011, I was really excited to see the Proto-Men because I'd seen their set in 2010 once, and it was like I had no idea what to expect. I was like, oh, there's concerts of this thing called PAX. I'd only gotten a pass for about half a day, so I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I heard them like, these guys are amazing. I'm not sure what they're about, but I love them. I'm happy that they're doing live concerts. I'll come back for it. So I was really excited.
I think that's everyone's reaction. Everyone's initial reaction. They don't really know what to expect of the Proto-Men. They don't really know where they're coming from, and they don't really know how to handle it.
Right, because they're up there with keytars. That should already start you to understand, like, wait, what? They're using keytars, and they're doing it seriously. They're not just weird, like, hey, look, guys, it's a keytar. No, the lead singer, also the keyboardist in the front, he refuses to play the keyboard standing up. He always has to fall to his knees while he's playing the keyboard, or be belting out at the same time. Like they love the dramatic, just to start.
Yeah, they do.
and they will play it up, and you're like, are these guys serious or are they not serious? You're not really sure. I don't think most of their best fans are sure, because they definitely toe that line. They have a really lot of fun up there, and that's one thing that you really have to get into. Is if you get into the fun that the Proto-Men are having while they're up on stage and just rocking out, that's when you're really just going to fall in love with them, which is what happened with me. So I come back in 2011, and I've now read all of their lyrics, which is really important with them to really get them, because they kind of have a little bit of a cult following. When you go to one of their concerts, you'll see people wearing the costumes that they're wearing. They've made their own Mega Man masks.
Yeah.
Their own Mega Man masks. They're wearing all of their own information. They know all they're screaming the entire time. All of that. So in 2011, I'm like, so what do you guys think? And I'm belting out the lyrics too with everyone else. And I turned to Jack, I turned to Alton, and they all respond with, I don't know, man. I don't know what I just saw.
Yeah, that was my exact reaction.
What is this?
They're
awesome.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we listened while we drove with Reed and Grendel, and we heard a lot of the Proto-Men on the way to PAX, and just and I think you can all agree that there is such an energy difference between their studio albums and what you see live.
They're famous for the amount of energy they bring to the table, and they're just the amount of fun they have when they have that energy. And definitely, if you ever go to Penny Arcade or you go to any of the gaming conventions where the Proto-Men are playing, make it one of your missions to see them, because it's an experience. And even if you don't like rock opera, and here's the other thing to understand: their rock opera is based on a dystopian future of Mega Man, and they pull it off. Let me just explain that. They pull it off. This is not something that they're just like, oh, we're going to see if this works. They actually able to pull off. They have a whole story. Each one of their albums, well, their first two albums, Act 1 and Act 2, are this dystopian future version of Mega Man. And the fact that they're able to pull it off with authority is fantastic. And their singing is amazing. Their instrument playing is ridiculous. And the amount of energy they bring to the table is wonderful.
That female vocalist, man. I mean, the main
she's
vocalist.
good.
The main vocalist too, but that female vocalist is just powerful.
She's good.
Right, and they have some songs where it's pretty much Dr. Wily having like a cry, having the Dark Night of the Soul, because it's the prequel to the Mega Man series, and for some of the songs,
Yeah.
they have some where he's calling out to the female, like the love interest for that, saying, why aren't you with me? And there's ones where he's preaching to the court and he's wrapping them around his little finger, and when Dr. Wily comes out in the fedora and the old style suit, and he's getting everyone riled up. You'll hear it in the audience. It's ridiculous. Everyone starts putting up W's for Dr. Wily. It's ridiculous. They have a lot of fun. And there's two things that really, I think, make them stand out. Well, three. One is their classic song, which is Hope Rides Alone, which is the song of the Proto-Man, who's kind of their way that they added a new character to the Mega Man canon, so to speak, of this person that comes before Mega Man, who's made to fight and fails. But and Hope Rides Alone.
Proto-Man was in the Mega Man games beforehand.
Fair enough.
And what was the song they
just
opened
adapted
with? What was the song they opened with? I mean, I'm not all that familiar with them. So, what was the song they opened?
Goodness.
Reed would know.
Honestly, I don't remember because I'm
Yeah, me
always a
neither.
fan of their songs. You know, The Father of Death, Hope Rides Alone,
Yeah, same here.
and the two songs the two moments that really kind of capitalize and can describe why the Proto Men are fantastic is the new song that they pulled out that I hadn't heard since I hadn't
They
heard.
opened up with. I'm trying to remember the title now.
Just keep going.
Unfortunately. So the
Yeah.
two things that really capitalized on it is that they pulled out a Queen song, and I had not expected this because I had heard their.
Well, they
set
did a whole
twice.
album of Queen songs.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that before because the last time I had heard them live was in 2011. So all of a sudden, when they start doing like a long keyboard piano bit, and they're kind of like in between, and all of a sudden I start hearing "Don't Stop Me Now," and like, you start hearing that, and I'm like, wait. Are they actually going into? And then you start hearing "Having a Good Time," and all of a sudden, like all the people that aren't currently on instruments come flying out. The Proto Man is, their guy, the commander, who comes out with like a faceless mask, like robotic mask, and like a mechanic suit, and he comes out with double maracas and starts just shaking along, like jumping up and down on the stage, getting everyone
The
riled
entire
up.
crowd explodes.
Just freaking out that they're doing this. And like half of it, they're actually able to keep up with the lyrics. The other half, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna phone it." And they just start going, "Nah, nah, nah," but everyone's belting it out. Just the amount of energy just triples during that song. It was a lot of fun. "Hope Rides Alone" is always a great song. They actually ended with "Hope Rides Alone" left, and then they had the commander come out and pretty much catcall the audience and just mock us, being like, "You worship these guys, and they only played a few crappy songs," and to get them all riled back up. And they come back
Rocking
out and
a
they play.
poncho.
Yeah, rocking a poncho and the Mega Man outfit, which was just what. So he comes out doing that, and then they actually break out into some songs from their album that everyone's waiting for. That's a huge diehard fan, which is their Act 3, which is going to end their rock opera of the Mega Man. And what they had the Proto Man get stabbed with a keytar and fall into the audience and crowd surf away. And then during "Hope Rides Alone," now whenever you see a Proto Man concert, whoever's not playing an instrument is not just waiting to play the instrument. They end up running around the stage, screaming at the audience, screaming at each other, or setting up for something ridiculous. So for one thing is that the drummer is infamous for this. And Alton, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, the drummer. The first time I saw it, it was like really, really crazy. He would stand on his drum kit or on the chair and his drum kit and like get the crowd hype and like hit his sticks together to keep the beat, so people would be clapping to the beat. And then after a certain point in the song, he would just jump down or drop down and just dive into like a double cymbal crash, which always just like launched the song back in. I'm gonna see if I can try and like tell the story to justice because it was just phenomenal. And so he did that in one song. It was awesome. Then he did something else where he was off to the side of his drum kit, and so we were like, okay, you're focusing on a lot of things going on, and singers, whatever, powerful voices, and he's off to his the side of his drum kit. He ends up jumping back into his drum kit, double cymbal crash, about, what'd you say, 3 to 5 feet?
Yeah, 3, because he's forward and to the left of his drums kit, and it's during "Hope Rides Alone," their big song, and he leaps backwards over his drum kit, double cymbal crashes, and then goes into one of his massive plays. And it's just, that's the energy that you bring with the Proto Men. So if you ever do get to see them, or you ever hear about them, and you like rock opera, if you like video game music, they're definitely an experience, and they're definitely, in my ways, if we can bring it back to the whole PAX thing, is that they really can be one of those central core ideas of PAX, which is have fun, rock out, accept who you are, and just go with it. Just run with it as fast as you can.
Yeah, that's about the sum of it. Like I said, I would have loved to have seen the whole set, but alas, not this time. There'll be others. It'll be others. I do plan on going up to next year's PAX.
Yeah, same here.
So, That was pretty much my night. I mean, as I said, I had to leave during the Proto-Men set to get back to the hotel. So I don't know if you guys did anything else in day 1. If not, I'm just going to move into day 2.
I did a little bit. I actually didn't stick around for those who thought I needed a break. I had a lot of friends that I wanted to meet up with, and I wanted to take a look around the floor. Now, the expo floor closes around 6 or 7 every day while you're there, so we had missed the expo floor, obviously, which is where all the new shiny things always are, because that's where you have the video game booth set up. They're giving out all the free stuff.
That's day 2, yes.
So, we'll talk about that then. But one thing that I really liked is that, first of all, the Boston Convention Center is massive. It's just absolutely huge, and you will not understand until you're trying to walk around the outside of it from the back to the front to get there at the start of the day, and then walk back into the back of the building on the inside. You're just like, this.
It's a workout.
It's a workout. It's great. So, but anyway, it's many floors. But one thing is that they had a lot of empty space because they have an area which is called the queue room, which is where me and Alton will talk about this because we were on the queue first thing in the morning on Saturday. It's huge, but they had a lot of blank space in 2011. This time they really used their space a lot more effectively. The tabletop gaming area was huge. They really did a really good job of filling out the empty space. On one back wall, they had a whole bunch of vendors for board games. In the middle, they had a really well-staffed place where you could pretty much rent board games like you would for the console free play, but for board games. And then on the other far right side of the wall, I wish we could have pictures to show you how big this place was. You had all of the Wizards of the Coast stuff. So you had an area just dedicated of, I would say, Alton, what do you think, like 40 to 50 tables just for Magic the Gathering?
That sounds about right.
40 to 50 tables just for Magic the Gathering. And then you had another 50 to 70 tables dedicated just for playing Dungeons & Dragons and Dungeons & Dragons board games. That's just Wizards of the Coast. Only like a third of this free-to-play area for tabletop games. And I went down there and I ended up meeting up with an indie developer. I wouldn't say they're indie, but they kind of started off on their own and now they're actually doing really good. It's a group called Plaid Hat Games, who made a card war game called Summoner Wars. I remember seeing their first product back in 2009. So when I saw them, told my buddy, hey, look, you need to try this game out. He sat down. They now have 3 different games out. We're doing really well. I taught him how to play Summoner Wars, and he ended up buying a set right there. The guy who made the game was sitting right there teaching someone else one of the new games. And that's one of the great things about PAX, is that you'll have the people that are part of the indie showcase who made the games right there on the floor talking to you if you want. And if you say, hey, I like your game, they'll sign your stuff, or they'll talk to you about what was the experience like making your own game, how did it happen, and they'll take your suggestions too.
Yes, I found a lot of that on day 2, so I might as well move into day 2.
Absolutely.
We got there probably a little after 11, after all of the I'm like, I kind of don't want to be there for the mad crush when it opens, and
one of the breakfast anyway.
Yeah, and the hotel has really good breakfast. They had a really good breakfast restaurant. But be that as it may, the great thing about taking the subway there is that when you emerge from the underground, the convention center's right there. It was great. If it's one of those where you have to really miss it. You can't miss it when you emerge from the underground. It's this huge building that's shiny. And if the big LED screens on the outside aren't the tip-off, I don't know what is. But anyway, we get in there day 2, and I made a point to walk around the expo floor. I wanted to see what, ooh, shiny. And also day 2 was the designated swag day.
Yes, absolutely.
Swag! And that's why, I ended up getting so much swag that I said day 2 is called Swag Day, or I need this because of reasons. It was... So I'm walking around the expo floor, very, very, very crowded. But I did, I made the joke that I said I was going to go to the Square Enix and Capcom booths, find whoever was there, and punch them out for their recent atrocities. Resident Evil 6 and
Mega Man and
Resident Evil 6 and Final Fantasy 13. What are you doing?
What have you done? Yeah.
What have you done? But I found out from the Capcom booth, it was news to me, that Resident Evil Revelations, which is a 3DS game, is going to get a console release. which
I'm excited about.
makes me very happy because from what I hear, Resident Evil Revelations goes back to the Resident Evil of old that we know and love. The puzzle solving, the exploration, things like that, and not the Call of Duty Action Jackson HGH Chris Redfield punching boulders and Meat Tornado Wesker that we've all
Steroids!
Yeah, that sort of thing. So, May 15th, that game is released on the current consoles. Makes me very happy. The Square Enix booth was Tomb Raider, because obviously the new Tomb Raider just came out, and it was published by Square Enix, not developed by them. Yeah, that still throws me off. Like, wait, Tomb Raider was put up by who? But
A lot of good Tomb Raider cosplays actually out there.
Yeah.
yes, a lot of new Tomb Raider cosplay. I don't think I saw any old.
I saw it too.
I didn't see any very large, triple-breasted, Lara Crofts, of old.
I saw one.
But I'm hoping to pick up Tomb Raider anyway. And then of course
It's a really fun game.
the two lines that were the longest that I noticed were
Elder Scrolls.
the Bethesda booth with the Elder Scrolls Online and Blizzard.
Yeah, well, Blizzard will always draw a crowd. Now, in terms of lines, me and Alton actually tried getting there. We got there at 9:30, 9:40.
Yeah, about that.
We got there 9:30. We got there like half an hour early because we wanted to see what would be like there at open because we hadn't done that last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy we did it because you get to the queue line, and the queue line is at least, as a rough estimate that I can't say with any actual authority, is probably like 5,000 to 10,000 people.
That's safe. I took a bunch of pictures on my phone, and it was like substantial.
Yeah, well, you do that. I didn't want to be caught in that, so like you do that, Wyatt. Go right ahead.
But after maybe say 30 minutes, it kind of just went quickly because they started letting two lines go at a time, and they split them off, and then we were on the floor. So it was really, really cool.
So you just have this room of like 5,000 to 10,000 people just sitting there like, come on, just waiting for the room to open and try out all the new shiny things. And me and Al, we weren't there at the front. We were at least a few thousand in. So we get in and we're like, all right, we wanted to go see Watch Dogs, which is a new IP from Ubisoft, which looks fantastic.
So good.
So we went there to try to skip the line, even though we were on there at the opening because we hadn't gotten there right at the opening. Whatever that means. Because we hadn't, though. We ended up still having to wait in line to see Watch Dogs for like an hour?
Yeah.
And I'm happy that we did it. There wasn't as much free swag at the Ubisoft booth as I'd like, because it was very much, if you pre-order, then you can buy a new shirt. Then you'll get a free shirt if you do the pre-order for the game. But regardless of that practice in comparison to all the other free stuff that was out there, Watch Dogs, definitely take a look at it if you like it. It is a new IP from Ubisoft, which I know a lot of people weren't expecting. But when it came out, it's wowed many people because of pretty much, it's a game about hacking.
You can hack the city of Chicago.
And that's very much how it operates.
I spent a lot of time in the indie section because, to me, the indie section is where a lot of new and experimental ideas are taking place. And there was
there's some interesting games there.
Yeah, I mean, Grendel, I don't know if you saw a Saturday Morning RPG.
Yeah, I kind of got to see some of it.
Saturday Morning RPG is basically a love letter to the 80s. Because it's a world that is overrun by enemies from late 80s, early 90s Saturday morning cartoons.
That's cool.
So I'm watching somebody play it, and their main character is using attacks like Care Bear Rainbow.
Just all the silly stuff.
Oh yeah, and but it's currently it's out now. It's available on all of the iThings, and it's going to be a launch title for the Android gaming platform coming up, the Ouya. I think that's how you pronounce it. But
right, yeah. I have no idea about that platform. I just know it's coming out. So,
and it's going to be available as
Dive Kick.
Dive Kick looked freaking hilarious, and the fact that
Yes.
that someone made it as a joke, and now there's actual people at fighters that want to do the the world fighting championships, and they actually want it there as a competitive game because they're just like, this is ridiculous. Can we please play more of this game? So.
What's Dive Kick?
Dive Kick is like a Street Fighter sort of fighting game, except there's only 2 buttons: jump and down kick. And those are the 2 things that you have.
Square with 2 buttons, one on the left, one on the right.
And one hit kills people.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So it's you can block. You can still block. It's just, what do you want to do? Do you want to jump and then kick, or do you want to wait to jump and
Or do
kick?
you want to kick?
And it's just like watching people play the game and like really get into it. You'd actually have like these like good, bad, and the ugly like standoffs for like 30 seconds where they're trying to finagle to try to get that first hit in. It was really, really ridiculous to watch. There's a lot of really fun stuff that's there in terms of the indie showcase and otherwise.
Another thing I had to check out, Supergiant Games. They're the ones who did Bastion, and they're currently working on a new project called Transistor.
That they announced like 2 days right before PAX East.
Yeah, and I couldn't actually do any plays, but I was watching people play, and the way the gameplay looks, it looks like it's presented in a similar style to Bastion in terms of the isometric 3D, kind of like the 3/4 view up that we saw in Bastion.
Right.
But
I wasn't able to play because even though, remember, this is an indie group and they didn't have a huge booth like some of the other ones like Watch Dogs, like Bethesda, like Neverwinter, and all the other stuff. Even though they didn't have that, though, they had a lot of people wait. There was a 3-hour wait line on Saturday to play that game.
There was, but I said, you know what, I will wait on this. But my highlight was I got to meet and speak with the composer for Bastion.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
How was that?
That was and that was a lot of fun. Darren Kolb, I think is his name. But I mean, if you've heard the Bastion soundtrack,
Phenomenal.
then it is an amazing soundtrack.
I have it again. I actually picked it up once on like digital download, but then the file's corrupted.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone who was at the booth because I ended up buying the shirts because they have their own stuff. They really have a really high quality in all their stuff, including their merchandise. And I was talking to the guy. I'm like, I love the game. I can't wait for Transistor. I'm actually not going to play the game because I'll just wait until I can see a more finished product. And he's like, yeah, I totally get it. And I mentioned I love the soundtrack. I'm sad that mine broke because it did. And he threw in a free copy into my bag.
Nice.
Nice.
I mean, they're just really chill people. They're really awesome. I remember seeing them back when Bastion was like not quite yet heard of. Like, people were like, this game is going to be interesting back in 2011, and got the bandanas. We talked to the voice. If you know what we're talking about, you'll be like, it's the voice, and other people will be like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So-
Darren Korb is the composer. So, but it was just a lot of. I mean, we talked to him. I talked to him. We chatted a little bit about music in video games and how we were glad that video game music is starting to be taken more seriously, and just the uniqueness of music now. I mean, we've always had the heavy hitters. We've had Uematsu for Final Fantasy, Koichi Sugiyama for Dragon Quest, Koji Kondo, Mario and Zelda, but now it's getting a lot more diverse and a lot more interesting, and people are starting to pay attention to it more, and we chatted about that, and it was just enjoyable. I did my very best not to squee all over the place at him. And
Now, I know that one thing about swag is that Neverwinter did a really good job with their swag, and as Alton can say, Neverwinter drove me a little bit nuts all weekend.
Just a little bit.
And okay, so I have to explain this. So one thing they did is that you'd play through it. It's a free-to-play MMO that's very action RPG. It looks really cool. It definitely has a lot of fun. really enjoyable. They had a really great booth setup that looked really nifty. They presented themselves very, very well, especially for a free-to-play. And I was looking forward to. They actually had R.A. Salvatore, the writer that really canonized Neverwinter, and a lot of Dungeons and Dragons Forgotten Realms
books he wrote,
signing books and all of that. I met the guy before, so I didn't see him at the con, but he was there, and it was really nifty. But one thing that they were doing is that if you played the game, you did get swag, but you had to earn it in loot. So whenever you beat the game, what happened is that you would open up a chest and you'd get one of three things. You'd get a bag of coins, which was actually a bag of chocolate coins that you'd get.
Aren't you chocolate?
Yeah, geld. Or you would get a potion bottle, glass potion bottle, or you'd get a shirt that said "Party Time" and had 3 silhouettes of a fighter, a priest, and a paladin. Sorry, a mage, a priest, and a paladin. It was really, really cool for that. So I was like, okay, I need to get all of the swag. So I started getting back online, and we're waiting in line. And what happens is that one of the people in charge of this comes out and says, "I have a free headset for anyone that can answer me some Dungeons and Dragons trivia."
Yeah, at that point, I'm immediately out because I don't really know. But Wyatt, he's got all.
So this is when I zero in, and I promptly start obsessing about this booth because things. What happened was pretty much they asked, what are the 5 colors of the dragons that are the evil dragons, and what do they breathe. And so I'm able to get all that down, the 5 colors, and it goes down in between what does black dragons breathe next to green dragons. And I reversed it at the last second, and they were giving out a free $90, like $80 or $90, it doesn't matter, a very high, nice quality free headset. And the woman that had the prize in her hand with the camera right behind her looks at me with this look of like pain on her face, like, "I'm sorry, you didn't get it," and walks away from me.
And this is where the madness starts.
Because
this begins Wyatt's descent into madness.
Because I walk by about an hour later and I see that they're doing another giveaway. And so I walk by and I'm not able to quite.
I can see where this is going.
So I'm on the line and I'm walking around, and this woman now knows me by sight by about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So the first time I walk by, she sees me and she gives me a look like, "I'm sorry," and I don't try out. So I end up going back on and I will continue the story for Sunday because it does keep going, because I end up trying 4, 5, 6 times. There's a happy ending, but by this, I think that woman hates me now. I'm pretty sure she does, and I feel bad if she's listening. I'm sorry for bothering you all weekend.
All right. So I'm gonna wind down the first half pretty soon. So Grendel, you haven't said much. What did you do?
Yeah, I was going to say. It's like me and Reed it was mostly me and Reed just hanging out because we kind of lost track of where everyone was. We didn't see Wyatt almost all day, but we had checked out Dust 514.
Okay, yep.
Which now makes me want to get a PS3.
That's just because it's EVE Online related.
Well, yeah, partially that. Because it's a first-person shooter. It's like Halo or something like that. You can customize your guy with armor, weapons, get a tank, everything like that, but it ties into the EVE Online MMO. So it's like ship pilots and EVE can hire mercenary armies that are playing in Dust to take over and fight over planet colonies. And you can also orbit the hell out of people playing in Dust from space in EVE. Or orbitally bombard.
Yeah, I know you and Reed were talking about that. There's a PS3 and PC crossover for this now.
Because they're 2 separate games, but they're going to cross over in that way. Because EVE is mostly spaceships. You're in space and all. Dust is mostly, ground troops, first-person shooter.
And I know Reed was very interested in seeing the status of that.
Yeah. Well, we had waited in line, and it was a long line, but it went pretty quickly before we could play. And we got in, we both have played first-person shooters for years, and we did terrible. We were blowing each other up. I think I shot at Reed a few times, and he's on my team.
Oh, friendly fire.
What's great is each time you go through a battle, you're accumulating money. And since it's the same accounts, they had accounts set up for demoing. One team realized that they pretty much racked up as soon as they started all this money, so they just started buying tanks like crazy. Meanwhile, we were on the team that we had no clue we could do that. So that was fun.
I know we all
checked that out.
Pretty much separated, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, we had checked that out, and then WildStar. It's like a new MMO coming out, and it looked interesting. It's like sci-fi, almost looks like cartoony sci-fi. But then we're kind of watching people play, and my whole thing was it looked like they were in Ogrimmar in World of Warcraft. It's like graphics and everything, it looked just like something out of World of Warcraft.
Was that out of the indie booth? I don't recall seeing that.
No, it was actually a rather big booth right in the middle.
Yeah.
It looks interesting.
in
It has
CSOP.
it has a little bit of that cartoony aspect that World of Warcraft has.
Oh, I remember seeing that. Okay.
Got it. Now I remember. I'm like, oh, that's ringing a bell. Was that coming out of the indie? No, it wasn't. And then I saw a bunch of people. Keep going.
Oh, sorry. No, what I got into with the indie booth was the Tempest project or Terminus project.
Yes, I
It's
did
like
see
a
that.
browser-based. Yeah, it's like the browser-based 8-bit MMO and free play. I actually, once I got home, started playing it. It's actually not bad. It's pretty good.
You know, after running through the indie booth, I now want an iPad.
Yeah, a lot of those games were for.
I had no desire to get a tablet, and now I want one because of reasons.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a lot of games that are able to go free to play because there's not as many restrictions on tablet as there are like if you try to get on Xbox Live Arcade,
Right.
stuff like that. So there's a lot of really good games I have when I had a job working the midnight shift at a hotel, and I have a lot of those free to play games on my tablet that you can't get in any other system.
Yes. So, and that's the thing about the indie games is, you know, because of the relative cheapness in terms of how much it costs to develop them. I mean, a lot of those games you may or may not have noticed were funded via Kickstarter. So
Yeah.
that's the thing now. And also, a lot of these indie games are released for the iOS. Sometimes they get an iOS and Android release at the same time, but they usually start off on the iOS first. So now I have this desire to give Apple money.
Right. I mean, there's quite a few for
Yeah.
Android as well, but
So,
yeah, there's quite a few for Android as well. So don't make it think that it's just Apple that you're going to have to, shell out money to. But yeah, definitely getting a tablet is really interesting right now because of the whole free-to-play movement.
right, and I think that's very good. So this first half is dragging on a little bit, so I will break here. But when we come back, we will continue talking about the second day, because I definitely want to talk about the one panel I got to see. We'll talk about the Saturday night concerts, and we'll move into the day 3 Omegathon fail. That's coming up on the second half of this PAX East recap of downloadable content. Welcome back to Downloadable Content. We continue our recap of PAX East 2013. We are all still here. We haven't gone going to get more swag and even more piles of swag. So we continue day 2. We're going to move off the expo floor now because, I mean, there's a lot of shit going on the expo floor, but there were also a lot of panels to go around. And so I'm going to open with the panel that I most wanted to see, which was the Composers panel. It was the panel of behind the music of blockbuster video games. And this panel consists of 5 composers, and I will list them. We had Jack Wall. You've heard his music in games like Mass Effect, Myst. Jason Graves from Dead Space, and he's also done the music for the Tomb Raider game. Enon Zur, I think that's how you pronounce it, but he's an interesting person. I mean, he's an Israeli-American composer who, before he went composing, was a tank commander in the Israeli army.
That's fun.
And he's you've heard his music in games like the Fallout series and Dragon Age.
Oh, nice.
Kevin Riepel, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but you know him from the games Aliens, Colonial Marines, and Gears of War. And Greg Edmondson, who's done the Uncharted series. Most people also know him because he was the composer for Firefly, the TV show Firefly.
Ooh.
That makes a lot more sense now.
So, it was an amazing panel. I mean, the panelist, there was a woman who does a podcast. I think she's on NPR in Minnesota. And she was, interviewing these guys. And it was great to hear, how they got started, some of their, what their favorite scores were. And just, there was a range of ages. I mean, there were some really young composers and some that are a little bit more up there in age, but they all span the gamut, and they all love what they do. They all absolutely love what they do. It was a packed panel. And the one guy who's the enforcer, who was getting the crowd, situated, was the spitting image of Grendel. Looked like Grendel, sounded like Grendel, had the same build as Grendel, but his hair went down.
Grendel.
Grendel currently has shorter hair. This guy's hair was almost down to his ass. That's how long. But I was like, Grendel.
I get that a lot.
Grendel
that doubles everywhere.
Grendel changed outfits. When did he become an enforcer? But it was a lot of fun. And while I was online waiting to get into the theater for this panel. Something we all are probably familiar with, waiting for panels. Breakout card games from anybody.
That's one thing that always happens at PAX. You're online for something, and the lines people will set up an hour and a half or 2 hours in advance. Partly because they definitely want to see the panel, but because they also have got all these brand new free card games, and they'll just sit down wherever they are and play whatever they've got on them.
Card games, DSs.
Yes, DSs. I was introduced to 2 card games on that line. The first was Flux, which I had never played before.
Right.
And I was trying to wrap my head around those gameplay of that game. And then we had a game which I call Flux on steroids, which is called We Didn't Play Test this at all.
Is that the actual name, or?
Yeah, that's the actual name of the game. We didn't play test this at all. Which is Flux on speed. Playtest is the type of game where if you have a large group, it's the type of game that the game is so quick that the game could begin and end before it even gets to your opening turn.
Oh my god.
Because there are cards that are just like, everybody loses. Including you. And there are cards like Dinosaur. Place this card in front of you. You have a dinosaur. Dinosaurs are cool. Nothing can hurt you while you have a dinosaur in front of you. It gets really interesting because there are cards that there's like, okay, from starting now, nobody can say the words I, me, or or I, you, or me, or something like that, or you, your, or yours. And when cards like that get played, the conversation stops.
Is there a penalty?
You lose.
Oh, okay.
Everything
That's
ends.
a penalty.
Everything ends in you lose. Then there'll be stupid random shit cards like, if you're the shortest player in the group, you win. So if somebody has that opening card and they're in fact the shortest person, that's game. That's it. So I'm like, it took me a few rounds of this to, like, what the fuck's going on? But I bought playtests because Flux was more expensive. But I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them a lot. And that was, I mean, I wanted to see a bunch of panels, but that was the only one I saw. But it was the one I wanted to see the most. And at the end, I shook Jack Wall's hand, and I was just like, oh.
Fangirling all over the place.
Well, I mean, you and I all enjoy music a lot. I mean,
Yep.
I think that's true of all of us here. But, you know, when you get to meet the people who have given you some great music, it's like, trying not to fangasm. You know, I think if I ever met Uematsu, who's that final,
Your heart would jump out of your body.
I think I'd probably need a change of underwear for one, because it's like I'm meeting God. This is so very, very, very fun. Did any of you see any other panels?
I went to one at the end during the concerts. I wanted to take a break from the concerts occasionally just because I was so filled up with them. So I actually took a break from the Jonathan Colton one. I do like Joko, but he's not my favorite. So I took a break from him. I went down. I saw a panel about how to make your own chiptunes music, which was interesting because I definitely want to try my hand at that sort of stuff. I have a new DJ program on my iPad, stuff like that.
Oh god.
So it was just fun to
Yeah,
hear about that. It was very laid back. It was very casual. There wasn't a line for it because it was during Saturday night concerts, but it was nice to have.
Yeah, it was very much. I saw that one with you, and it was very much. You already know how to do this. Well, let's show you how to make it better, sort of thing. It wasn't really an introductory sort of thing, or the panelists weren't treating it as an introductory sort of thing. Like
Right.
Yeah, I checked out the Mass Effect panel.
Yes, I know you and Reed checked out the Mass Effect retrospective. I wanted to go to that, but there were in the music panel there were some spoilers that were mentioned, and I said, you know what? I haven't played Mass Effect 3 yet. I would love to go to this panel, but I do not want to be ruined on the third game.
Mm.
Yeah, there were a couple kind of spoiler-y things with the third game at the panel. I mean, nothing that really ruined it, but so it's something if you want to avoid spoilers, it's probably better.
I did not go to the Saturday night concerts because, well, for two reasons. One, I was in the middle on the tabletop floor playing the Wyatt's Present to Me.
Right, yeah. I got him the new Resident Evil game at the start of the concert. That's not the start of the convention, so I know he was doing that for a while.
I was playing the latest expansion to the Resident Evil deck building game, Mercenaries, with Ryan, and which is luckily it's a standalone game as well as an expansion. So, but Ryan and I spent several hours doing that because I had misread the rules.
Oh man.
Well, just as a brief aside, I noticed that with Mercenaries, I'm like, the mansion deck is awfully thick. More so than any of the other expansions. And then I realized after rereading the rules that there are actually 3 different levels of mansion. And, you know, depending on the difficulty you choose...
Just play them all.
Play them all. We played them all. So the amount of decorations that Ryan and I were totaling up were ridiculous. But it was still a lot of fun anyway. And it was also during that game I ended up missing another panel I wanted to go to, which was talking about violent video games and the controversy.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of different sort of events there. They did a really good job of really doing a lot of different events than just the regular, what you would expect. So they also did a really great job of averaging out. So even though you had a huge expo floor, you also had a really nice setup of a lot of card games. So Dominion had its own booth right on the floor with everything else.
Right.
Which is another one of those sort of like Resident Evil card game. If you're not familiar with that, Privateer Press that does War Machine was right in there with the expo floor. And then, like I said before, the tabletop game area was huge, and I actually got Alton to try out a miniatures game. And we also got to play test the new D&D Next. For those of you that are Dungeons & Dragons fans and were worried about how 4th edition was something very different than what you had from previously, D&D Next really does try to mix and match to make it a much more robust system than 4th edition and much more like the older versions. And Alton, you had fun playing that, right? As a brand new person?
It was my first time actually playing D&D. I've played the board game, and that was pretty much the extent of me playing D&D. And it was pretty interesting. I don't really know why I haven't been playing it. It's actually kind of fun. The rules are pretty simple, and it was pretty easy to pick up on. So yeah, I had fun.
Very good. I mean, and I'm looking at the schedule now from the PAX convention. I mean, there was a lot of things. I mean, there was a science fiction world building workshop, which I missed because I got there too late.
Yeah, same here.
There was a lot of tournaments. I wanted to enter this Brawl tournament, but then I remember what happened 2 years ago. And yeah, so no. After playing Resident Evil, my day ended with Ryan and I spending about an hour or so in console free play playing Mortal Kombat. That's when I finally got to see everybody else.
I was playing Steel Battalion with a giant.
Yeah, they actually had an entire
with 40
room for
foot.
Steel Battalion.
Okay, what is Steel Battalion? Because Reed and Grendel were trying to get me to.
No one knows.
Okay, Steel Battalion, it's a mech game from the original Xbox where the controls, you need this controller that you basically need a tabletop for the controller itself because it's all a mech cockpit. There's 2 joysticks, there's a couple different buttons, there's foot pedals, and it's a good game, but it's pretty complicated. Like, we had to have explained to us the steps to start up the mech. Where it's like, okay, close your cockpit, hit ignition, put your foot all the way on the left foot pedal, flick all the switches into the off position till all the meters are full, then switch them onto the on position again, then hit start.
That sounds incredibly complicated.
Yeah, it was a game that was like, okay, you're actually going to learn how to drive a tank. Good luck with that.
And they move like an actual mech would in real life. They're not like Gundam where they're running around and doing ballet dance and cutting each other up with swords. They're like stomping towards each other, shooting.
It's a very different sort of game. So it was just really nifty that they had, what is it? It was like 4 different rooms for just free console.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple. There were some rooms for console free play. There was some for classic console, which at the time I wanted to jump on one of those, but I couldn't see an open one.
And there was the arcade room too,
which I did go in. I would be remiss if I did not go into the arcade free play and play something. So it was packed, but I did get some rounds of Space Invaders in.
Oh, nice.
And I was waiting for Wreck-It Ralph. I can fix it. Speaking of, I did see a Vanellope cosplayer.
Yeah, there was a whole Wreck-It Ralph group.
Yes,
that she was part of,
which was just great. Like, yes, good to see. It was. Did any of you? I did not go to the Saturday night concerts. Did any of you go?
Yes, we went to the Saturday night concerts. It was a lot of fun.
That's where we finally found Wyatt.
Yeah, I thought it was Jonathan Colton, MC Frontalot.
A new guy named Hart who did acoustic music, and his song about Mario Kart was absolutely fantastic.
It was really, really good.
He'll be invited back just for that one song. That's how great it was.
You'll have to send me the link to that song because I'd like to hear it. But I know, was Paul and Storm there this year?
Paul and Storm was there.
Okay.
So I mean, there was a lot of really good stuff for the concerts. For those that don't know, so we had the new guy Hart. And one thing that happened is that during 2011, one of the big things that was great was that the Omegathon is this thing where you have, I believe it's 20 or 24 people all compete in teams of 2 to try to win a ridiculous prize. And they have to do ridiculous things to do so. So they play games like Hungry Hippos and otherwise, and then they televise or they put them on the main stage for several of them. So Saturday night they had their game, and it was actually a repeat of what they did for 2011, which was Epic Jenga, which is where they have a giant set of blocks. This time what they did, though, for the teammates, which was really great, was that they taped them together. And they made it so they could, once they chose a block, that was it. So it was just again, you have about, again, remember this, 4,000, 5,000 gamers all chanting about Jenga.
So did they impose the rule that you had like 10 seconds to choose a block and whatever one...
Yeah, they actually made it that once you touched a block, that was it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, once you... okay, because I remember the first time they did that 2 years ago, it was dragging.
No, this time it went a lot faster because it was a lot more brutal. Like, if you chose the wrong block, you had some people that were working on the same block for like 20 minutes, though, because they're like, no, we're not losing. We are not losing.
Yes, and just for the listeners out there, the prize for the winner is an all-expense-paid trip to the Germany Game Show, which is basically Germany's version of E3. So that was the prize. It was the same a couple years ago when we went as well. So that was the grand prize for the winner. So anyway,
And that was what, round 3?
Round 4.
Was...
So that was it. So there was only like eight contestants.
Right.
yeah, because I'm looking at the schedule. Yeah, there was the trying to see what they started, because I think round 2 was NBA Jam.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Trying to see what round 1 was.
Yeah, the first few are usually internal, and you have to find them. But then they televise, or they really kind of ramp up the last ones. And it was a lot of fun to watch. They went from that right into the concerts.
Yep, I remember that. There was another panel that I wanted to go to, which featured guys from Overclocked Remix, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that site.
Not at all.
Overclocked Remix is a website that is completely run. It's basically fan remixes of video game music.
Oh, nice.
And it's a giant repository of music. A lot of it, I'm surprised Wyatt doesn't live on that site because of all of the techno and dubstep that live on that site. But
Wub.
there's
Sorry.
so much wub. Omegathon round 1 was Bomberman.
Oh, man.
Yes. So it's a lot of
That'd
fun
be
that they
great.
do this.
Round 2 was NBA Jam. Round 3 was Jenga, as you said. Then we had round 4.
I think Jenga was round 4.
No, round 3 was Jenga.
All right.
Because I'm looking now because we move into Sunday. Omegathon round 4.
Was probably the final.
They might have only had 4 rounds this time.
Yeah. There wasn't as many people as
Well,
2 years ago.
what they did is they really made it so you people died a lot quicker, or they were canceled out a lot faster.
Yeah, because round 4 was the final. So yeah, because that, and we'll get into day 3 in a little bit. So
So just so I can speed this along, the concerts were great. The first guy, he did about 4 or 5 acoustic songs, sort of like a placeholder before the actual concert started. He was brand new. They found him on YouTube, I believe, and he was really, really good. If anyone has access to a computer that's working, mine is very slow for some reason right now. I think his last name was Hart, and he was really, really great. He was an acoustic guitar. He played some songs that sounded like they were, they had that moment of sounding touching, and they'd have a really great comedic twist.
Yeah.
All things along those lines.
He did a song that was a cover. It was the Mario Kart song you were talking about, which ended up turning into a cover of Adele's "Someone Like You," which was pretty adorable and fun.
it was pretty adorable and fun.
Right. So That was great. And then the guy who kind of blew me out of the water the last time I came to PAX.
Sam Hart.
Yeah, that was the guy. So then the guy that I kind of fell in love with at the end of PAX 2011 was MC Frontalot, who is a nerd rapper whose first song, he comes out asking how we're feeling, and then how does everyone feel about their grammar skills? And I went, who is this man, and why have I not heard of him before?
He appeals to your English major sense.
Yeah, he's a huge nerd rapper, and he did a really great set. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. And he's very much his street cred is the fact that he's really good at rapping, and he's not afraid to use like 4 or 5 syllable words while he's rapping about goth girls and about how nerds have a hard time getting a goth girlfriend, about grammar. He did a cover song. Well, he did a mashup song with Jonathan Colton called "Diseases of Europe," where he talks about the Black Death. He has a whole great set list of stuff, and he ends up doing a song where he has this new tradition where he tries to cause copyright infringement or get as close as possible to causing copyright infringement. And the way he did that is that he ended up making a new song. I found out later when I talked to him directly that it was the first time they'd ever performed that song live, where it was a mashup of Downton Abbey's theme song into Game of Thrones theme song. And he's rapping over top that, and you're hearing no. You're hearing the Game of Thrones soundtrack in the background. And me, Jack, and Alton were all there like screaming, but the bass was so high we couldn't hear each other when we're all belting out the theme song. We're doing the acapella of it. It was just really great concert work. Really great.
Prepare yourselves.
Yeah, he had a lot of fun with that.
His flow is just like really smooth, really solid, just. And it's quick, and as Wyatt said, he uses big words, and they fit, and it's just really fun to hear that.
If you've never heard of him, check him out on YouTube. It's MC Frontalot, and Final Boss is really infamous as being one of his really, really good ones. First World Problems is also probably one of his best songs because of its First World Problems. Go watch it. It's fantastic. He's a great guy.
So yeah, and then the end of the night, and Reed came home with a single thunder stick, and then of course we had the adventure with Hal, Reed's GPS. But that's
I'm sure. I know that Jonathan Colton played next. I missed out to go to the chiptunes for a little bit. I saw the last part. I saw the last bits of his set, including his very most infamous song, "Ari Your Brains," probably. And you have 4,000 people all doing the zombie lunge towards the screen for the all you want to do is eat your brains portion of it. There's a lot of fun. Just the amount of energy that's in that room for the concerts is, I can't express this enough.
For all the concerts, for all the groups.
Yeah.
So then we move on to the third day. 24 hours remain, and unfortunately Reed and Grendel were not with me on this final day because they did not have passes for Sunday. So it was just Ryan and I went this time.
Right, and me, Alton, and Jack, and then some of the other groups we were running around with, Eric and John. We were just cleaning up as much swag as we possibly could.
Of course.
Because that's what Sunday's about.
Yeah, swag. I spent Sunday largely again on the expo floor and looking around and buying shit. I picked up some stuff for April. Walking around the expo floor, I bought some shit, and then we went into. I taught Ryan the actual Mercenaries mode of the Resident Evil card game,
which is a lot faster.
I ended up beating him 144 to 44 because I ran off a 9 straight kills. And the way it works in Mercenaries is that the number of decorations is the total multiplied by the number of cards in your combo. So I ran off 9 straight out of 15 turns. You only have 15 turns. And when your first 9 are successful kills, that's a game right there.
Game, set, match, yeah.
So, again, we did a lot of wandering around. We made some friends as we were eating lunch that we hung around with for the last 3 or 4 hours of the day. And then we saw the Omegathon final. The Omegathon final. Oh God.
Right. I know that was what you guys did. I know me and Alton, we again showed up right at the crack of dawn because we're masochists like that, and we had no we were exhausted, but who cares? We got there.
Penchant for staying online.
98th Red Bull.
Yeah, me, Alton, and Jack did that. And this is actually where we wanted to get all the free shirts, because we had no luck. I had no luck. I played Neverwinter like 2 or 3 times on Saturday, and I just kept winning either potion bottles or bags of coins. I was like, I want at least a shirt. Give me something. So
I'm going to leave with something.
So that's what I was preferring, like trying to get as much free stuff as possible. We found the survey line for the Elder Scrolls game. Now, like we said before, there's a 5-hour wait. We got there at the start, and there was already a 5-hour wait to play the beta. And this is where me and I didn't want to actually plug this point, because if those of you that go to PAX in later years, keep this in mind. Learn to con. Learn to convention. And me and Alton were online to get a free shirt by taking a survey. It was a really nice shirt. And we're talking to one of the guys, and he's like, "Oh, did you guys go to the party last night?" And we're like, What are you talking about? What party are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, apparently on Twitter and Facebook for Bethesda Games, they were like, hey, we're going to be at the castle. There's a free shuttle for you outside of the convention center. Come party with us at the castle. There's a beer garden."
That sucked. I would have been right there if I knew about it.
Well, apparently also at the actual... I know, right? And so here's the thing, is also walking around, there was a whole bunch of people walking around with little scrolls that were like secret passes to the beer garden, letting people know on the floor, but there weren't that many of them. And I found that when you got there, it was entirely free. You were given 20 silver coins in the currency of the Bethesda world. And yeah, you could either spend 2 or 3 of them at a time to buy a drink, or you could buy some food, or you could gamble with them, trade. You could play the beta for, instead of on the game floor for like 10 or 15 minutes, you could play the beta for an unlimited amount of time as long as there was no one waiting. And there weren't that many people that showed up. It was like we were told it was like a Ren Fair for the Elder Scrolls games.
Yep.
And you could actually save up coins and purchase free loot, beta keys, and also get like full-scale like leader Peter Steins from the game series. And me and Alton just looked at each other and said, we need to learn how to convention better, because holy crap.
Well, this was only, what, your second PAX?
A little bit, yeah.
So
but it was still sort of like, there's so much
been going to
there.
conventions for years, and we wouldn't have known of this, so...
So, that was...
Social media is a huge thing, and if you follow a game company, sometimes they'll be like, hey, look, I know Kotaku a few years ago, they were like, hey, it was free cash bar, come hang out with us Friday night. And so definitely follow through that. I know that my friend John, he spent most of his day on Sunday in the indie booths, and now he's hanging out, and he has the phone numbers of the guys who have Delver's Drop for Pixelscopic, and 1 or 2 other game series that he's like, hey, I want to talk to you guys, and I think he's actually going to have some, not interviews, he can interview some for one of his classes, and also keep up with the games and help him with some of the social media stuff. So there's definitely a lot of really interesting opportunity at one of these things as well. I definitely want to state.
That is definitely something to keep in mind for next time. Do not quote me on this, but I took a look on the internet to find out if there were dates for next year's PAX. So far, the rumor, it's unconfirmed, but it's the weekend before Easter again, so it's mid-April. I think it's like April 13th and 14th.
Buy your tickets now. The 3-day passes sold out in 24 hours last time, or 36.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
It was less than a day. So, I mean, obviously they're not on sale yet.
As well,
God knows.
go Sunday.
But then we get to the end of PAX, the Omegathon final round. It's down to 4 people, and winner take all. Someone's going to Germany at the end of this. So they start off by riling the crowd by playing the song "The Final Countdown,"
as they always do.
And they come out and they're talking about blah 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 blah, and then they unveil the game that's going to be the final. Now, 2 years ago, the final was Ikaruga, which is an amazing game, and I finally just beat it a few months ago.
How
did I beat it? I played it long enough to unlock unlimited continues.
Oh, that's how you did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
At which point I was just like, fuck it. I'm just
going loud, yeah.
Yeah. So, Space Team, which is an iPad game,
As a space team. Sorry, I had to do it once.
No, it's a game where it's 4 people. It's 2 to 4. Are controlling a spaceship on the top of your screen. You're represented by this tiny little spaceship, but you're trying to escape this oncoming supernova explosion that is creeping up toward you slowly, coming from the left. The way you advance the spaceship is that every single person has a control panel, but each control panel is different. And everyone is shouting commands at each other, and whoever, that command is shouted, the person who has that particular button or has to press it. Every time you put in a correct command, it advances the spaceship. Every time you take too long or put in a wrong command, you move back a little. And when your spaceship finally reaches all the way to the right side of the screen, the ship goes into hyperspace, you've beaten the level, and you advance. One small problem. To connect to every single player's space space control panel, to connect everyone's iPod uses Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi in the building sucks.
Yeah.
So now the original, what they were going to do is that each team was going to get 2 attempts, 2 complete attempts. I stress the word complete attempts because it was so fraught with technical failure. The first team, the Wi-Fi kept cutting out. There was a couple of times where somebody hit the power button.
When they flipped it over, yeah.
Yeah, when you flip it over to avoid the oncoming asteroid or whatever. But it was reaching the point, and it was dragging out so long that the first team they actually did get a complete game in. The second team went, and again, after a lot of disconnects and power and human error, they got through their game. So then it went back to the first team. They beat the previous high score, but then it cut out before they can complete it. So they finally said, "Oh, you know what? This is the mark." So they got to Sector 8. They got to Level 8 before the Wi-Fi died. And then came down to the final team again. And that attempt was just not happening. So at the end of it all, time ran out because now it's getting near 7 o'clock. And
people have flights.
Or, have to get home. So they ended up declaring both teams winners.
Yeah. Which was really great. I mean, these guys... One thing to get into stress is that the Omega-thon is something that they kind of decided on when they started doing PAX, and it's entirely unnecessary for the convention as a whole. But the fact that they are like, we're going to do this ridiculous show, and if you win, you get this ridiculous prize was great. And the fact that they gave it to all 4 people was phenomenal.
Yeah, they decided that it was only fair with all the technical failure going on. They just said, you know what, fuck it,
you both deserve this.
Yeah, fuck it, you both get it. So. And that was at the end of the convention, and that was that.
So it was definitely a lot of fun. I know that one thing that I had a lot of fun with on Sunday was going around and picking up the swag. And I got back to Neverwinter, and that woman recognized me instantly. I had a few other attempts that Alton saw. One was they tried to make you write a limerick for Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I was there for that one.
And I almost won that one, but then I think he looked like a 13-year-old kid managed to pull out a limerick, and they gave it to the 13-year-old kid, which, totally understandable, as well as something else. And eventually, on like my 3rd time, Jack walks up to me smug as heck at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He's like, "So I walked by and they were doing D&D trivia. Guess what I won? A free gaming mouse," and walks away from me laughing at me. So then I go back at 4. I walked back right near the end, and they were doing some of the last setup, and they did D&D trivia, and I eventually won by knowing what the damage profile of was a magic missile. When she handed the game to me, the gaming mouse to me, she had the biggest finally on her face. And afterwards, like when the expo floor was closed, and I actually shook her hand, I'm like, "Thank you for putting up with me." And she's like, "No problem." It was actually hilarious just seeing you constantly having these near misses.
He's
and it was
determined.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of great things on the floor. Dungeon Defenders 2 on the expo floor is something that I got Alton to play his first MOBA. Riot Games was there, if you know League of Legends. and it was a huge game. I mean, that also shows where gaming has really gone, because it's a free-to-play game. And it was one of the first ones that really tried breaking out and trying a new model, and now it's got millions of people that play, and it was always packed there.
Entire time.
Always packed. They had
Giving away free skins and asking questions, and it was a lot of personal attention, because I guess they work for Riot, but it was like they were engaging their pretty much users. They were engaging people who play their games, and I have never played League of Legends before, but like looking at how much fun people were having, there was a few tournaments that were being played that I looked at
on like a 60 or 70 foot screen on top or something like that. Oh no, not that big, but like 20 or 30.
But it was like I got interested in it, and I'm currently playing. So yeah, mission accomplished on their part.
Yeah, cosplayers. It really shows the dedication they had. There was a lot of really great groups like the Indies that all wanted to do that. I know one of the things I was really appreciative of was how much time they gave for tabletop. I got me, Alton, and Jack all started playing a brand new miniatures game called Mercs, and I definitely want to plug that for these guys right now, Mercs Miniatures. Where if you like games like Warhammer and all that, or want to break into that, Mercs is a version of like a sci-fi miniatures game where you only need 5 or 6 models to play, and it's really cheap. And the guy who made the game was actually he's actually a veteran from modern day war, and I actually found out when I read the about him in the book that he actually like lost a finger or two in some of the fighting, from what I can tell. I didn't actually see that because I think I shook his good hand when I bought the game, but he came back and was like, I want to make a game where you really feel like you're in a firefight, and it definitely does feel like that. So that was a really great game. You were talking to the artists, you were talking to the main developers that are all sitting there, and they sit down with you and they teach you the game right there. I mean, you only get that at a convention like PAX.
Not to mention, the community and sense among gamers, because, we're all there. It's a nice mix of male and female, which is good. I like seeing that. It's like, yes, come on, let's get closer to equal here.
And you definitely see that over the years of a lot more girl gamers, much more diversity among gamers, more acceptance of that. And one thing that was really funny is that there was this game for the DS that I didn't have, but John had while he was there. What was it called? Street Pass, I think, right, Alton?
Yeah.
Street Pass, where pretty much it's like an RPG where every time that you meet someone else on the DS, so you walk by someone else on the same Wi-Fi who has that, suddenly their miniature or their me appears in your game and becomes one of your RPG characters.
Yes.
And he ended up getting like 15,000 brand new characters in his game by that point. By the end of the convention, just by walking around.
A lot of DSs floating around. I did not see a single PSP or a Vita there.
Yeah. Nintendo owns the handheld for that in that regard.
So yes, it was a lot of fun, and for next year, I'm looking forward to hopefully a later Subway.
Right. I'm actually saving up now that I do have a full-time job and all of that, and I have the paid time off that I can plan for. I'm actually planning on trying to get there Thursday night and be at one of the connecting hotels so I can just be there the whole time and really soak it all in. And then I can also take a nap in the middle of the day, because being there 12, 16 hours straight is when I had to go to work the next morning at 7 a.m.
So it's finally draining on you too?
Oh, it is draining. It's just the fact that I don't want to miss anything, and you will miss something because it's such a huge convention. There's always stuff there. You don't want to miss it. Penny Arcade throws on a great show, and they really care about the gaming community.
So thank you very much to them, and not to mention all of the developers and people who make the games, compose for the games, write them. A lot of fun. It's a great show. It is a great show. So, do you guys have any final thoughts, or can we put this to bed?
I think for the next PAX that I think I'm going to attend a lot more of the panels, maybe.
That's what I'm hoping to. I got to one.
Yes. The concerts are always phenomenal. The expo floor is always great. A lot of really cool free stuff. A lot of new stuff I had never seen before. And so, I've got that down packed. Yeah, it's pretty much just checking out panels and seeing what else is new within people who are talking about games and stuff. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Grendel, what say you?
Yeah, about same thing as Alton said. Looking forward to next year and actually getting in to see more of the actual booths. Because there were a few I couldn't actually get into just because of all the people.
Yes. Well, that's what's going to happen, and
It's part of
I
a
mean,
convention, though. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, they had a nice they have a nice app for Android and iOS called Guidebook, which you can just pull up the maps of the con and the schedule right there, and you can actually take a look at what panels and add them to a list, and it will send you like a reminder that's like, hey, the panel is approaching, get online.
Yeah.
So that was very nice. But I am certainly looking forward to the next PAX, and as I said, unconfirmed, but it looks like the weekend before Easter again, so April 13th or 14th. So we'll definitely watch for when things go on sale. Coming up is PAX Prime on the West Coast in Seattle. That's taking place over Labor Day weekend. I will not be going, but one year I will eventually get there.
When we have monies and, lots of monies.
Cons on the West Coast.
Actually travel that far.
San Diego.
I have friends in, my April knows friends in Seattle, but the plane ticket, my God.
Right. So I know that the one thing is that I really enjoyed. If you want to go and see what's coming up in the gaming community, it's definitely going to PAX or going to any huge gaming convention is always great, just to feel the energy and also to feel that sense of camaraderie. Because one thing about gamers is that we're mostly online or in our own small local communities. It's really a great time that you can go and see that, hey, look, there's a lot of us, and there's a lot of people that really want to have that same passion and same, they really enjoy what they're doing. And then it's also really nice to try out new things. And the indie showcase was huge this year, and I'm really happy about that.
I'm so glad for that. It's amazing to see. And now I want an iPad. See what they've done?
Yeah. Again, Penny Arcade gets a lot of
On
fun.
an iPad and PS3.
Yes.
See?
It was a lot of learning. I feel like I got introduced to a lot of new games, a lot of old games that people have been playing for years. And I feel like next time I will have a better language. I'll know what people are talking about when they reference certain games and things of that nature, and I'll be able to sit myself down and actually play something with full knowledge and full understanding of the rules and all that stuff. I'll be a well-rounded gamer, as it were.
Very good. That is the intention. So
the one other thing I just want to do really quick. I'm sorry to cut you off, Brian.
keep going.
I'm going to let you finish, but first, I just need to say that me and John Glover are we're good friends, and we've been wanting to do something like this for a while. And we're actually starting up a new blog that we're hoping to make large eventually over the course of time. We're opening it on April 6th. It's called Sprites and Dice. So it's the actual website will be spritesanddice.blogspot.com, and we're hoping to. One of the first things that we're doing is we're really going to cover the convention again in words, just talk about how great it was. And one thing that he's really doing is that he spent a lot of time at many of the different indie developers, and talking to the developers of the game and what it was like to create the game, and what it's like to kind of do this all from scratch. So he's going to have some posts directly about each individual game about the indie showcase. So we'd love for you to, when we do open up in about a week after we've finished recording this, to stop on by, take a look at these indie games that are coming up, and give the support to the those people that are up and coming in the community.
So
Definitely.
And if you guys end up making a podcast out of it, let me know.
All right, or we'll probably link this on that website. So
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. Yay, exposure. All right, so if you have any PAX experiences that you would like to share, or you have any questions, comments for us, what have you, on this episode or any other episode, or you want to be in a future episode, you can get a hold of us through a number of ways. You can go onto our Facebook page, facebook.com/downloadable content. You can find us on Twitter at DL Content, and you can also find us on YouTube. DL Content 1 is the username. You will find episodes are getting slowly added. I mean, all of this series 3 is up there now, but old episodes are slowly getting added to that as I have time. So we'd like to hear your feedback. And also we'd like to know if you ever want in on a future episode. So that's going to do it for us. So I would like to thank Wyatt, Grendel, and Alton for being on this with me.
This was great. I had a blast.
Hopefully
No problem.
hopefully you guys join again. And so for now, I will leave you. I'm Brian. Have a good one, everybody.
It's hard to overstate my satisfaction. Aperture science. We do what we must because we can. For the good of all of us, except the ones who are dead. But there's no sin